Hello again. My hair is beautiful as usual. I call this beanie hair because it's sitting. Oh, I'll just get right to it. Okay. June 14th. Coffee Point. I guess Ugashik. I wrote on there in red pen. 2:46 p.m. 1446. Last night, Friday the 13th, we hit some big waves. We were in the Bering Sea. I woke up that morning and realized I hadn't been outside for 2 days. Now, the waves in the Bering Sea, I guess on that night, from what I remember, they were pretty big. They were rocking the boat quite a bit. Me and my friend Corey, we had gone outside in the middle of the night. We were smoking cigarettes, and they had to seal the door to the stern. They wouldn't let anyone outside because of how big the waves were and how violently they were rocking the boat. We were going like maybe 2 knots, and we were fucking up and down with the waves. Like you couldn't even go walking in the hallway without at least feeling like you were gonna jump or feel like you were in the gravitron. That's a ride. The gravitron. If anyone knows what that is, it's pretty intense. So anyway, so we got like at least 30-foot waves, at least the swells. But while we were out there, me and Corey Cross. We were just admiring it. A lot of people were out there too, not just us, but we had at one point been out there just by ourselves. It was freezing cold. But it was just amazing just watching the waves just up, down, just like a wall of water. It was crazy. We even got a leak into the galley, but anyway, I'll continue. So, so I woke up that morning, realized I hadn't been outside for 2 days. I've been too distracted playing games, staying up to watch movies and drink coffee. The games we had, card games, board games, Risk was a major game that some people played when we weren't working. So we also had Cards Against Humanity, which really brightened the place up. So we watched a lot of movies, but yesterday I learned how to read people's hands when throwing dice. I learned how to guess the next throw based on their previous throws. I learned how to throw dice and land better throws, and how to throw what I want. How? A Cuban gambler taught me. This guy, Rafael Montoya. Like I said, there's a varied company of people on this boat, Cape Greig. Let's see. So he taught me that. He taught me, Bryson, Martin, and Colby, and I think some other people. But it was pretty neat. There's a whole science to it. So the day before, I played 100 Hams of Rummy with Corey Cross. I went to sleep at 4 a.m. that morning afterward. Then woke up early. Woke up only to learn dice tricks. That day, I suppose. Probably only slept till like noon or something. So later on that night, however, I got to see the sunset. It was the size and look of a giant fireball, and I know many people are going to remember exactly what I'm talking about. The sun, literally, like, just seeing it on the horizon, it was the size of a fucking basketball, or something really big and round, and it was just super red, crimson. Against the water, it was amazing. So as I watched it and the waves, I shook my hand of my fellow. I wrote this. My fellow de-virginized first season fisherman. We knew our cherries had popped as soon as the waves started reaching eye level. That was the waves from the night before were big, and these ones were just as big. The tide was against our ship. Water hit the windows in the galley. Some even found their way in. It got bad enough that going out to the stern would quite possibly lead to death. That was their concern, legitimately, and it was pretty legitimately a concern. You'd have to be there. Some waves sprayed onto the sides and hit the windows of like the second floor rooms. Let's see. The bow was worse, though nobody went up there. Not many people go up there anyway, even when it's nice and calm. Only me and a few others did. Yep. Continued 3:27 p.m. So 15:27. Coffee Point is cool. The water is green, the hills are green, the mountains are ice-capped, the beaches are thin and long. Some ATVs were cruising in the sand in the distance, and we didn't work here, but we did land there for some time. I forget why, but we were linking up with our sister ship, the Seabird. But also, we were picking up some people who were transferring I think they were transferring them from a contract at Coffee Point, and I think some of them got onto the boat, but I could be wrong. So anyway, apparently that's the best way to get around, either from work to home, or just for fun. There are little houses spread around the more plentiful wind turbines and few telephone poles, and this is at, again, Coffee Point. This place reminds me of Sandpoint back by Shimogan, except more flat, and we're surrounded by more water than land. Right now the Cape Greig is still anchored next to our sister, the Seabird. There is too much speculation as to when we'll start work, but we will when we will. Rumors here spread like wildfire. Worse than high school. Trust me. Maybe faster than that. Relevant information spreads faster, whether or not it's a lie or just unimportant. Any word of mouth just spreads super quick. People gossip a lot. They did. Over time, people learn to shut up. But it was a lesson that had to be learned. So anyway, June 17th, we are anchored in Coffee Point. We were still there. I guess near Coffee Creek. But I'll tell you, there was this just huge, beautiful mountain. The biggest one that I've ever seen in my life. Just completely covered in snow. It was amazing. So anyway, it says 3:04 a.m. on a Tuesday. And yes, I was up at 3:04 because at that point my sleep schedule was just so whack. Being up at 3 in the morning is the same as being up at noon because the sun's still out. So in some places, yeah. I think at Coffee Point not so much. It was still setting, it was still dark, but it didn't get too dark. So anyway, we were still anchored in the water. It hasn't been all lame though. I was on the stern when some seal pups had surfaced. Oh, I remember. 30 or so feet away. They were cute. I described them as kittens with fins and cat faces. Now this is when we were tied up with our sister, the sister boat Seabird. They surfaced, they were just barking. Yeah, and as they bark like dogs. So that's what I said in here. So they surfaced, then swam to our skiff, which is a little boat. Started sucking on the sides, and then they would fall asleep. Literally, they would come up to the boat, go up to the sides on the side, and then they'd turn over with their belly up and float away. I don't know why they did that. Yeah, they were so cute and weird. Supposedly, when we start making and dumping chum, the pups will always surround our vessel, and they did. Waiting to eat and waiting for us to throw chunks of bread, which we did. Continued. But not until the crew and I started working. Finally, Wednesday will be our official start of work. I don't know if it is or wasn't. But then I was wondering why I'm up so late writing this down. Because I'm acclimating to my sleep pattern. Why? Because come tomorrow, I start working at midnight, which is 0000, and all the way up until 16:30, which is 4:30 p.m. in the late afternoon. But as I've been sitting here writing, I've been hearing about and dealing with a serious situation. Oh yeah, the Seabird. Now, anyone on the Cape Greig who was awake during this situation remembers when we hit our sister boat, and it was because we were in the middle of a storm. Some stuff was going on. I don't remember exactly, but let's see what I wrote down. So the Seabird was tied and anchored next to us. The winds were 15 to 17 miles per hour. The tide was coming in. The waves are hackers. They were, believe it or not. It's all supposed to get worse, and it did. Like 30-mile-per-hour winds. But what happened recently was while the veteran crew was releasing the lines, which actually were the deckhands, so tying our vessels, because the ships were jumping up and down and the tension on the lines were making the ropes snap. Yeah, I remember that. That was pretty... and these ropes were like at least a foot in diameter in thickness. These factors were causing our boats to hit each other hard. All the wind, the waves, just everything. It all came to a head when both bows hit each other and the galley window on the Seabird shattered and our anchor took a nice chunk out of the hull of the Seabird. We got a chunk taken out of us too. So far I've been up at least 40 hours, which, yeah, I was going a little nutters. I've been having trouble sleeping on top of adjusting to my schedule. But come 4:30 a.m., I went to sleep. Okay. Actually, I'll stay up for breakfast. Oh. Eat, then sleep. This part. Only in Alaska does the sun never really set. And our and our meal times now are 7:30 a.m. to 9 o'clock a.m., which is breakfast, and then 16:30 to 1800, which would be dinner. Isn't that just strange? Having lunch is actually dinner. You have breakfast first, and then you eat dinner for lunch, and then you have lunch for dinner. Yeah. So only in Alaska will you have lunch at 11:30 p.m. and the sun is still shining in your eyes. So far I've drawn 2 drawings for tattoos and a portrait. Mine an eagle sitting in between the prongs of a trident. Yeah, I wanted to get a tattoo, which I still need to get. I haven't gotten it. It was supposed to be of Sandpoint of the Trident Foods trident with the eagle in between the 2 of the prongs. It was just so great of a sight. I was like, I need to, Sandpoint will always be my favorite place. So anyway, it also drew a Celtic cross, and yeah. Anyway, on to the next video.